trying to lose the weight that I gained the past few months from I was being happy. I decided I was so miserable, and then I moved in with you, and life was so happy that I ate all kinds of crap and gained weight.
It's funny because when you moved in, I got depressed and gained a bunch of weight.
So yeah. I don't know if it's working out for either of us.
Yeah, you should just move back out.
Just so everyone knows, I had some alcohol. So who knows what'll happen, probably. They raised the stakes just when we thought it couldn't get any better.
Welcome to Movieisms. It's the first time in a week, actually. We put our Friday show on pause for now because we actually have other stuff we should be working on other than podcasts.
And even though we went on pause to work on other stuff, we didn't work on anything.
Well, I did. I worked on a lot of stuff this week. I got a lot of pre-production done on the film we're trying to make.
Oh, okay. Well,
you got a lot of color correcting done.
Me time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so here's the list of things. Here's the sob story. We have another podcast we've been ignoring, called Film Reverie, which is where we interview other filmmakers.
Independent filmmakers.
It's like Movieisms, but talking about filmmaking. And then we have a film we're supposed to be finishing. I personally, we have writing we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 short films that are somehow suddenly both went into pre-production at the same time. You know, you start a whole bunch of things thinking, yeah, that'll never happen, and then they both sort of, popped up at the same time. So yeah, we had to kind of pause the Friday show because it takes up a lot of time to... Yeah. And honestly, when we're done doing the shows, I don't want to do anything anymore because you've zapped the life out of me.
I've zapped the life out of you.
You have zapped the life out of me.
Okay. I'll assume that responsibility.
I didn't even know that this was a surprise. I thought you already knew this.
No. That I just suck. You're
a succubus.
Yeah, you're saying that I just suck all the time. So I suck the life out of everything around me all the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry to surprise you. I thought you knew.
What if there's something that's sucking the life out of me and the radiation is irradiating everyone else? It's not me. It's just what's happening to me.
That's your problem?
No, apparently it's your problem.
No, my problem is you.
Exactly.
Whatever problems you have that get you to this point right here, that's your problem.
But this is my best point. This is the best part of me, and you're saying it's the worst part. The best part of me is the worst part of you.
Hold on, sorry. What's the best part of you?
I'm at my best right now.
This that sit before me as we speak.
Slightly buzzed. A little bit of sugar in me, some coffee.
Well, I mean,
I tried hard.
You haven't ruined my day yet, so maybe you should. Maybe I'll let you know at the end of this. Maybe you should always have alcohol in your system.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Not for anyone, actually. But okay, this would be a different podcast.
So we saw a couple of movies. We're going to talk about. I guess we could talk about the one I really want to talk about. Let's talk about that last.
Searching.
Because so we saw Operation Finale, and we saw the movie Searching.
I'm gonna give an on-demand recommendation.
I had high hopes for both movies. One fell short, the other one exceeded, actually.
I'm surprised you had high hopes for Searching because I feel like you haven't seen as many of the computer screen movies as I have.
I'm gonna call them the computer POV.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about that. I have only seen one, and it was called Unfriended. I did not realize that the B horror movie had hijacked that format.
All right.
But the first movie we're going to talk about is Operation Finale, which is directed by Chris Weitz, who also, by the way, directed a bunch of other things, but got his start with American Pie. So it was his idea to have that guy fuck the pie.
Well, just
And then he
throwing it in there.
And then he came around. Everybody knows what's in American
family
Pie.
entertainment.
And so Operation Finale is the true story, or based on the true story, of Ben Kingsley. I have to look up the character's name. Operation.
That Ben Kingsley played? I think you're in love with Ben Kingsley, because every time he comes on screen, you're saying you like.
He was good.
Finally, now there's something going on.
So it's the true story of Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the orchestrators of the final plan, or whatever it was
Final
called.
Solution.
Final Solution.
Which is, yeah.
Nazis getting rid of the Jews, which was Auschwitz, the gas chambers, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but towards the end of the when actually they had lost already, and they were still trying to use every last bullet and grab every last Jew, use them up. They're using them to recycle destroyed planes and stuff, and whatever anyone that couldn't work, they sent on a train to go get killed. And it's so interesting because they thought maybe they could still win. The Final Solution was maybe they could still win that war, even though they lost the World War.
Right.
Maybe they could just kill the Jews, but they failed at that.
I'm going to let you summarize more movies, man. That was pretty good.
I watched the Anne Frank documentary you put on there, and they just went everything. I was like, oh, this pertains to the movie I saw.
Oh, that's good. But so it was sort of like a heist movie trying to they had to use subterfuge, which is sneakiness, spy-like behavior to get into.
By they, you mean Jews.
The Mossad, is that the name of the Jewish military?
I didn't think so. I thought it was Arabic. I didn't know it was Jewish.
Well, they're Jews. Like, why would it be Arabic?
I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just never associated with Jews.
All right, here's the summary. A team of secret agents set out to track down the Nazi officer who masterminded the Holocaust. Director Chris White's historical thriller is based on the story of how a group of Israeli secret agents arrested notorious SS officer Adolf Eichmann, the man who masterminded the Final Solution, in Argentina. Oscar Isaac plays the legendary Mossad. That's how I was right.
Han Solo,
legendary Mossad
young Han
agent.
Solo.
Oh, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
No, he's Poe. He's the pilot Poe.
Why did I think he was...
I don't know why you thought that.
Oh, the other guy. Sorry.
That's what. So I was saying the legendary Mossad agent Peter Malkin. I was
trying to say he was in Star Wars.
And Ben Kingsley plays his emotionally manipulative arch nemesis. After tracking Eichmann down to Buenos Aires, Malkin and his men captured him and brought him to Israel for a historic 8-month trial. Jeez. See, here's the thing.
That sounded boring.
That was more interesting than the movie we watched.
Yeah.
The 8-month trial gets about 1 minute of the movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't get a whole lot. And so what they tried really hard to do is make this like they had to sneak in to Buenos Aires as like undercover, and they had to capture him, they had to surveil him, they had to capture him and bring him back to their place, and then they had to basically find a way to get him to willingly leave the country, because I guess Israel did not want someone captured and forced.
Well, they couldn't sneak him out of the country. All of the options that they would have at other times were not options anymore. And even when they got there, things got even worse, to where the only way they could get him out is if he wrote that he wanted out. They needed his written permission to take him. Otherwise, there's no way they could get through. Right.
So most of the where the movie gets good, honestly, where the movie gets good is when Ben Kingsley shows up. seemingly about half an hour into the movie, 45 minutes into the movie. And then really the rest of that time is spent with him and Oscar Isaac in a room talking to each other.
Which is the best part of the movie.
Which could be better than it is.
Yeah.
But they spent so much... Anyway, so eventually, I mean, you read it in the summary. They captured him and they took him back to... Israel for the trial. However, since we know that, okay, since we know how the story goes, because they showed it in... I mean, it's in the summary. They take him back for a historic 8-month trial. They spent so much time doing the spy stuff, trying to capture him and get him and stay undercover and everything. But you know what's going to happen because they spent so much time, since it's Ben Kingsley, they put Ben Kingsley in the trailer doing the Ben Kingsley thing. So 45 minutes of the movie is spent building up to something suspensefully that you already know is going to happen. There's no suspense in it because you know what's going to happen. I listened to an interview, was called The Treatment, with Chris Weitz, the director, who said they were trying to model it in a Argo, if you remember that movie Argo that came out. Argo was a much better movie, but I could see when we were watching this that it was definitely trying to be Argo.
Yeah.
Because they went to great lengths to show the undercoverness of everything. Oh, this and that. But it was just boring. I don't know why it was so boring, except that it was. It just... Ben Kingsley was incredible in the thing, and the movie gets better just when he shows up just when he shows up on screen. The way he walks, the way he talks to people, and they kept trying to make Oscar Isaac funny. And Oscar Isaac is funny. He has been funny before, but his character, it seemed like when they were giving him jokes to do in this movie, it was like, oh, this is the scene where he needs to be funny so we can keep it lighthearted.
They had an actual comedian in there too.
Nick Kroll.
Kroll.
Yeah, who annoys me. He annoys me as a person. When I see him on talk shows and stuff, just something about his sense of humor annoys the shit out of me. So when he showed up in the movie, I was like, now this guy's here.
I thought he did a decent job.
He was okay. He wasn't bad. Nobody was bad in this movie. But I just was bored the whole time.
Usually I'm the one that says that.
Yeah, I know. I realized that the last couple of movies we've seen that I didn't like, it's just because I was bored. I was bored by them. The movie is boring. I will say that there's a love interest that has absolutely nothing to do with the story, but it's like, yeah, there's a love interest in this movie. Remember his girlfriend?
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot she was even in the movie. She barely is...
Because it had nothing to do with the story.
Like, they spent 5 or 7 minutes about how she was reluctant to go and how they needed her. And then once they got there, you never really saw her.
Yeah.
Except in the background. So
and
what did they really need her for? She was a doctor, right?
Well, it seemed like they really needed her to create some sort of a B storyline so that it can have a happy ending at the end with the two people. You know, it's just...
I don't think they can just throw someone in there. Wouldn't she have actually had to be there? She was the nurse.
No.
She was an anesthesiologist, I thought.
Right, well, I'm not saying that it's fictitious. I'm just saying that they forced that part of the storyline.
To, up in the front?
Yeah, to give it... Like, for a successful movie, we got to have a love story. We got to have it's like... You don't need any of that. You don't always need that. So... What you said it when we walked out of the theater, you would have rather seen more about the trial. If we had framed the movie from the trial and then gone back and told the story, building up the drama of the trial and let the story unfold that way, because for me, Ben Kingsley's character, Adolf Eichmann, made a very good case for there's like out of the 5 people, everybody was dead except for him. And why is he's like, I'm doomed. There's no chance I'm going to get out of this alive. I'm gonna pay for the sins of an entire, group of people. But he actually made a compelling argument on
he was just doing his job.
That he was doing his job, and that he fought for the Jews and tried to get as many out as he could. Blah blah blah. It's explained in such a way that you don't really know if he's being honest about it. You don't know, because also after spending the whole movie becoming friends with Oscar Isaac, finally he says. He tells him this horrible story about the death of another person, which is totally out of character for the whole rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So you don't know if which one of those he's making up.
That was definitely something the writer made up, because there's no way of knowing that happened in that moment.
Yeah.
But that was I think they were trying to make it like a last ditch effort to get them to kill him. Because and this was after he signed the thing.
Yeah.
Then they wrote a scene where Ben Kingsley's like intentionally antagonizing the guy, saying that he has a memory of a woman and a child that could possibly be his mother,
his sister,
his sister. Sorry. Yeah. And was just obviously trying to get him mad enough to kill him before they took him. I guess he didn't want to. His fear, the bad guy, Ben Kingsley,
Adolf Eichmann,
his fear was that he wouldn't be able to say his side of the story, that their opinions would be biased, and he would just be thrown, not be able to give his side. So I guess that's why that was written there, and also maybe they realized, story-wise, that nothing intense is happening.
Yeah, nothing happened to make Adolf Eichmann the bad guy that he was supposedly supposed to be. So right before they take him away, they make him say terrible things.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't do a good enough of a job of making him a bad guy, or letting us feel that he's a bad guy or see that he's a bad guy. Because I saw more stuff in the documentary that I saw, like piles of bodies that are just, 4 feet, 5 feet
was
tall.
Adolf Eichmann in that documentary you saw?
I believe so. Okay. One of several people.
They didn't build any suspense at all in the thing, and they were trying to. That's the thing, is they were trying to. But it's kind of like they thought, well, we've got Ben Kingsley, let's just put him in a room and let him act because he's great. And he is, but nothing was ever accomplished in any of the... Yeah. There was no tension in any of it, even though they tried to make it tense and suspenseful.
I think the fault is in the writing.
Yeah.
It could have had more things going on with the characters.
Yeah. I just feel like if you told the same story framed in a different way, it could be...
If half the movie was with the trial, let's see people get intensely emotional. Let's see him give his a really good effort to explain his side, and then still see a grandmother or a grandfather or something come up there and tell his heart-wrenching story of, I don't give a shit what you're saying, this happened to me,
I mean, the story, the historical story is interesting. I didn't know much about that story. That was interesting, good to hear. But the movie was not. It sucked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it was plain and boring and not much happening. Considering the fact that it was a crazy historical event, you'd think that they would.
So I don't even want to really talk about it because it's just so ridiculous and insane.
I'm disappointed.
It's a whole nother level. There's racism against people of different color, and then when you start nitpicking because they're white, but then you're nitpicking, but they're not white like us. It's just another level of crazy.
There's a scene early in the movie when Oscar Isaac, they ask Oscar Isaac, they're training. They're at the Mossad. They are in Israel getting ready to do some mission, and they're all Jews, right? So at one point somebody says, why do you think they pick me, Oscar Isaac, instead of you? And he said, anti-Semitism. They're all Jewish. What? Was that supposed to be a joke?
I think so, because a lot of comedians say anti-Semitic things. Jewish comedians will say anti-Semitic jokes because they can. So I don't know.
It wasn't funny, and it was just like, aren't they all Jews? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why would that be the excuse he got? The reason he got overlooked for a mission?
I have no.
They're all Jewish. Maybe it's.
I guess that's supposed to be the joke.
He just wasn't. It just wasn't funny, and blah. Anyway, blah. I just feel like I've just been saying nothing but like it sucked and it's stupid the whole time, but which is not articulate in any way. But I just was.
Any scene that didn't have Ben Kingsley, you were extremely bored.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that I'm upset. I'm disappointed because I thought we were about to see the first award season movie.
Yeah. Also, how do you mess up a movie which is about the Holocaust? I mean, that's like one of the most heart-wrenching things, emotional stories. How do you... I don't remember having one moment where I was, emotionally bothered at all.
I don't remember being offended by anyone. That scene where Ben Kingsley's character said terrible things about how one character's sister might have died.
Yeah.
Like, that was just a horrible thing. I didn't think, like, in that moment, the movie felt like it could have been, this is how good the movie could have been. But it isn't.
So I think that's what the problem is. That there weren't any emotional, they didn't take any emotional risk. It was just, here's the thing, this guy's bad, they're gonna kidnap him and take him for trial, but there was nothing emotional at stake. There weren't any really emotional moments. I didn't feel what they feel. I wanted to feel their intensity of anger of why they needed to take him to punish him, but there was never anything like that.
I didn't ever feel it. And the thing is, it would be easy to identify with because it's infuriating. Like the Nazi attack on the Jewish people is offensive.
It's just ridiculous.
It's not very hard to create that feeling in me, at least, because it's one of the things that truly pisses me off in the world is like intolerance and all that stuff. But I didn't feel one moment of it in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's a movie that's supposed to be about punishing a guy who orchestrated the final solution of like getting rid of all Jews.
Yeah.
Like, why is it not? Why don't I care?
Yeah, because they did the writer, I'm guessing.
I'm disappointed because I have been feeling very personally undernourished in the soul food department of going when I go to movies all summer and basically since about March, it's been very rare few like of my kind of movie. Yeah. Which is the serious drama or something like that. And I've enjoyed a lot of movies this summer, but not much is like junk food. It's like that. It's like a good cheeseburger.
Yeah, I'm still being punished for the cheeseburger I had last night. So that tells you, if you have too much movie junk food, and I mean mentally, not necessarily, but both actually, mentally and physically, it will sit with you for a long time, give you a sour...
Nice way to turn that back around, because I thought you were just like taking it off into talking about cheeseburgers.
It's about me!
Yeah.
That's what everything's about me, people!
So,
mental junk food,
yeah, that's what I was saying. I wanted it to be that, like, this time between basically October and January or February is like award season, and I know that really sounds pretentious and snobby, but it is when they release the movies that I'm most interested in, which is like serious dramas or a little offbeat things, or maybe some more like independent movies that pushed through the glass ceiling and got a release. This was that movie, but it was a disappointing version of that movie. It wasn't the movie that I wanted it to be.
Okay, so 3 stars if we rated it? No?
I'm going to give this movie, like, if I'm going to rate this movie, I'm not going to be nice to it.
Okay.
It's like 1 or 2 stars.
Just say 2, because it's definitely not 1. It's
it's not 1, because Valerian is a 1.
Yeah.
Valerian is a 0.
Yeah.
Can that be a...
it's a thing.
Right, so I'm going to say it's not that bad. Jurassic Park Jurassic World 2, that was a 2-star movie. So this is a 2-star movie. So if Operation Finale was the movie that I was more convinced I was going to like than Searching.
Yeah.
Searching is the one that really surprised me from beginning to end. Not in terms of like storytelling, but I just, from the moment it started, it felt very well put together. Very good.
Yeah, out of all, it is the best out of all the on-screen movies. What do we call it?
I call it the computer POV.
Computer POV
Which, by
movies.
the way, I think is the new found footage.
Yeah.
You have your found footage movies.
But the one thing that you find after seeing your first one is you realize that they have to come up with reasons for cameras to be there, or a camera phone, or a laptop screen. Somehow they've got to, or somebody, they need a reason for somebody to set up a security camera so that they can have angles to cut to. So in the other ones who aren't as good as this one, you're like, oh, come on, that's a stupid reason to have a camera there.
It never, from the very beginning, it's told through memories. So memories, where we have memories, are on our phone or in your Mac or something where you have iMessage and stuff like that.
It's told through almost like if you're on your computer one day and you just go on a little rant on your computer and you find some old photos, and next thing you know you spent 20 minutes in memory land. Yeah. That this movie kind of starts that way.
It does, and it actually, it felt like, now I know a lot of people love the first 10 minutes of Up. That movie Up.
It reminded me of that.
But that's me too. It reminded me of Up when we were watching, because it tells us this story of people who meet, and then so the premise to Searching.
We can't do a spoiler alert, but it starts happy, gets a little sad, but.
Well, the premise to the whole movie is, I think we can tell them that the mom is not there, because it's the opening title sequence where the mom dies.
Yeah.
Two people are married. The mom and dad are married. They have a kid, and it's told through first day of kindergarten, first day of first grade, first day of whatever.
And then
the mom gets sick.
Yeah.
And then she gets better, and then not. So it's done really well, because if you were making this movie in a first person setting where you were seeing people's faces, it would be so much easier to grab your emotional, tug at your heartstrings, because you could see the person's face as they are thinking about the mom dying, or the mom passing away, or his wife, or whatever. But instead, in the very beginning, all we see is the calendar saying mom comes home from the hospital, and then the date, they drag the event to 2 weeks later, and then they eventually just delete the event. So it's very touching in a way, the way they did it, and it made almost the mundane of setting a calendar events and stuff like that is mundane. It's okay, let me set that event. There's nothing emotional about it in any way. But as somebody who's my grandmother passed away, and every now and then she pops up in my Facebook. It catches you off guard because you're not expecting that's my grandmother,
Oh, that memory thing. You have a memory from whatever years ago.
Yeah. And I think one year it told me it was my grandmother's birthday after she passed away, and you just don't I knew it was my grandmother's birthday, but just the little vent popping up saying, "Hey, it's so and so's birthday." That's the whole movie is told in that way. It's from the phone's point of view, from your phone or your computer.
I also like how it started with Windows XP, and then you're if you're like us, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could take a whole movie of Windows. And then it graduates to Mac, and we're like, oh, thank you.
But if you think about it, they had to go to the Mac because of the iMessage thing. Mac
FaceTime,
the FaceTime and the iMessage, it all works through the phone and through the computer. Yeah. They all link. There's not anything like that for the PC, is there? They don't have an iMessage for the PC.
Skype.
Yeah, but that's not. It's like I can send a text message from my phone and it automatically shows up in iMessage on my Mac.
Yeah.
There's nothing seamless.
It's not seamless and automatically integrated like that, but you can eventually set stuff like that up.
So yeah, it covers about she's in high school, so she's 14 or 15 years old when the movie starts. I mean, she's 14, 15-year-old when the story starts. When the movie starts, she's like a 5-year-old kid.
I think it's 2 years after the mom has passed, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And she is, but she's applying for college at some point in the movie.
Well,
I mean, by the end of the movie, she is.
By the end of the movie, she is. Yeah.
And I thought that was weird. I was like, piano school. It said application for piano school. I'm like, really? There's a piano. I'm doing air quotes. Piano school. Couldn't they have done a better job with that?
Well, it said conservatory right before that. So maybe she's in the piano school of the conservatory.
Yes. Anyway, whatever.
Anyway, so...
I have some nitpicks about the way the movie is, but I can't really nitpick it because that would be a spoiler, so never mind.
Here's the deal. This movie... It's written so cleanly. Like, really is... There's one thing that when we'll do a spoiler section so Brad can talk about the thing he didn't like. But because you do have a point on that. However, it's written so cleanly and it never ever gets tired of the computer POV. Like the switching back and forth with FaceTime, text messages back and forth, looking at old pictures, opening up Facebook and scrolling through friends because he's looking for his daughter. His daughter is missing. And he actually doesn't know she's missing for like the first 36 hours because she was just, I'm going to come home late. And then he went to bed early. So in the morning when he woke up, she was already, air quotes, gone to school. And he didn't even know that she was missing until like a day and a half later.
She tried to call him a couple times and then he couldn't get a hold of her.
So it's suspenseful in that way, but in that moment when he's asleep at night and he's getting a phone call from or he's getting a FaceTime call from his daughter, it's missed call, and you just see him sleeping, and because he's like, I guess the FaceTime camera was open.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess when someone FaceTime calls you, that it pops up, the camera automatically comes on, so they were showing that. I mean, coming from me, as someone who has seen, I think this is the fourth computer screen movie I've seen.
You were shitting on this movie at first because you were like, you didn't really want to see it.
Yeah, because the other ones I've seen, I think most of the acting wasn't there. Yeah. So a lot of times I'm watching 2 or 3 screens up at the same time, and actors trying to improv and fill in the space and doing it badly. Yeah. And then and it's just not done well. So I was very pleasantly surprised. Yeah. How well this was. I was never bored. I am the king of being bored at movies. And everything was logical. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, go search for would do he went and did everything. Yeah. They even did Passage of Time very beautiful. Like, there was no point where I'm thinking, oh, that didn't make sense. Somehow they did everything naturally on the computer screen, where a day passes or hours pass, and you're like, okay, I'm good that we're jumped to the next thing. Yeah. But, it's weird how you don't notice that time is passing in that way. But
even in the quiet moments where the movie feels...
The movie is very quiet.
It has moments of silence where if I was making this movie, I might have added, like when he's digging through old memories, like I would have added probably myself what? No, that doesn't make any sense. Because I talk to myself when I'm looking at the computer. I'll curse at the computer. Yeah. I'll say, what the fuck? Like that. But the dad is just a quieter guy. Yeah. And they actually let the movie sit in suspenseful silence while he's dragging things around on the screen and clicking. And you're like, could you click faster? I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
I kept... My thoughts were... I'm I wish I hadn't have brought my own bag of popcorn because I have to wait for 10 minutes for something to happen so I could reach into my bag to get a handful of popcorn because every little thing I do, every movement is echoing through the theater because it's so quiet.
Yeah, FTR, for the record. I was wishing you hadn't brought that bag too because it was loud. I heard that. It's like you in the movie, like you in our movie. Cameo in our movie. Chewing loudly.
It's my right to eat in a movie theater.
But the movie has, honestly, it builds suspensefully up, and they do a very good job of finding different ways to tell you things in a point of view. So for the first hour, maybe, of the movie, it's all computer screen point of view and cell phones and stuff like that. But they take it another step, and they show you news reports because the daughter is missing. And so what you see then are news reports of the missing daughter.
Yeah.
You just don't see it. You just don't see traditional movie scenes where you got people talking to each other. It's all, you do see people talking to each other. It's just they'll cut to the screen on his phone, and then they'll cut to the screen on her phone. Do they put them side by side at some point? I can't remember if they had them side by side.
What on the screen it was, but what happened is they would digitally zoom in to the one, and then it would slowly pan to the other,
which kept the thing moving. There's very few times when the screen is just sitting there static. Most of the time, there's even just a tiny little scale, like a tiny little zoom in, just even zoom. Almost unnoticeable if you're not paying attention to it. Just tiny little movements, so it's constantly moving. But the news story, when they cut to all the different news footage and the news reports and the interviews of people that are looking for the daughter and stuff like that, was so actually perfectly timed. Because if you did have to sit through an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes of just the computer, it would get old at that point. But stuff with the news footage came at like the perfect time that woke the movie back up again.
Yeah, there was another part where the guy was suspicious of somebody he knew, and you saw him go online and order spy cams or something.
Yeah.
And then he went and visited that person and put 2 or 3 spy cams up because he thought he was going to get a confession.
Right.
So it made sense. Okay, now we're cutting to camera angles because he, set these cameras up.
And you even see a shot of one of those security cameras looking through the open front door, and you see the dad character sitting in his car looking at his computer screen. It's telling the story that way. It does not fill in blanks for you. You have to fill in your own blanks.
Yeah, it's like when the record light comes on the windows you're looking at, you're like, okay, he went in there and hit record on the laptop.
Right. So, but there's so many twists and turns in this movie, you feel like you know the answer to what has happened or what is happening. This movie never, for me at least, never felt like, okay, well, that's a stretch. Every time it twists and turned, you're like, oh, man, we thought we had it, and then now we don't again. And he had to start all over.
That was your perspective, that it wasn't a stretch?
The one you're talking about, which we're going to talk about in spoiler, I'll give you that. I'm 50-50 on that one. But the other ones, with the one you were just talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the movie did a good job of, and even when the thing happened where I thought, if there is a twist, it would be this. And then I was like... and then I was really, come on.
Is that your Mr. Ed voice?
Wilbur. Goofy, I don't know. It's a terrible Goofy. But, so it did a good job. So even when it did the thing that I thought, it would be lame if they did that, then they kind of did something else to where, that makes more sense,
Yeah. So it did. It twisted over on top of itself a couple of times and spent significant amount of time building up to it and did, I thought, a great job of presenting the evidence. And if you are thinking the way the dad is thinking, you could totally see why he would believe what he believed happened is why he believed that. It does a good job of keeping you wondering what's happening because you see something happen and you think, could it be that?
Yeah. And
you don't know. And it does that all the way to the end.
And just to nail that point in, we're writers, and we've studied movies all our life, like analyzed them, broke them down. And most of the time, you and I both can predict how a movie's going to go, or who did what. So this movie did a great job of, we didn't really truly know what was going on, and then they convinced me that, it's probably this, and then it wasn't, So it does a good job of, what do you call it? When someone's gonna punch and they do have a little tell.
It's called projecting.
Yeah, they don't. You don't see it coming.
Oh, you mean telegraph?
Telegraph.
They're not telegraphing.
They're not
their punches.
telegraphing.
Yeah.
So,
yes. Good. It's good that way. And the acting is, like you were talking about the acting in some of those, the acting was great. The dad was believable as a dad, and the way they shot it and cut it together and the way they orchestrated how things happened on the screen did such a good job of keeping you in the moment and confused.
Yeah.
As in the dad's point of view. Technically, you are the dad in this movie. Like, it's you. You're looking at the screen, and the screen is looking back at you. So you're the dad.
I enjoyed how it made you really identified with the movie, because the character did things that a dad would do. Exactly what a father's thought process. Oh, this happened. Let me do this, and then
It really did. It really did feel like the person who wrote this knew what it was like to have a kid that used to watch The Voice with you, and then now doesn't, because she's gotten too old and doesn't really want to hang out with her dad as much. I nudged my daughter saw this with her. I nudged her when they did that. It's because that is something that me and my daughter used to do. We used to watch The Voice together. Now she doesn't watch The Voice with me anymore. So it's just like it happened in the movie, where she's like, I don't know, I'm just this and that, maybe, And it's like heartbreaking. I cried.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't notice.
I didn't cry. I didn't cry. But it was very true. It felt very true. And it wasn't that the daughter doesn't love the dad. And it wasn't that the dad was... But the dad was, having lost the mom, his wife. Mm-hmm. He was a little more clingy and overbearing, like he's a single dad. I get that feeling as well. I understand that. Like, wanting to make sure your daughter knows how much you love her and all that stuff.
Yeah, they did a good job of showing you the tension of how he's trying to balance how he feels and what he actually does, because he would start to type like a paragraph of how angry he was, and then he would delete it all and type another thing and then delete that and then say, talk to you later,
Yeah, even when he was telling her how proud he was, like where he typed, I'm proud of you, and your mom would be too, and then he deleted the your mom would be too, because it's hard to bring stuff like that back up, because you don't know, it's sad. It's still sad for everybody.
He tries not to be overbearing, even though inside you can see he's panicking, like, she's gone, but then he's trying to say, well, maybe she's just, having fun at a party.
Right, because he doesn't want to... Nobody wants to think that the worst has happened.
Yeah.
So there's another scene in this movie that I thought was great, where he's looking back through his daughter's memories to see if he can figure out where she might be, or who might know where she is.
He sort of he had to hack her account.
Yeah.
In order to do that.
And he's watching a video of his daughter on doing like an online thing where she's recording herself, and then he comes in and interrupts it. And it's a good moment where he got to see how he's not an asshole overbearing dad. He just but he got to see himself being sort of like the won't let it go dad. Like, she's not a little kid anymore. And when she's doing that live stream and he comes up and says, and that's when he says, you want to watch The Voice. It's Tuesday, The Voice is back on. And he's like, maybe I'll be down there in a little bit. So and so is going to get voted off. And you see him in that moment. You see the video where he's like trying, and then you can tell you're him looking at himself thinking, hopefully you're realizing that you are...
I'm ruining my daughter's thing right now. Plus, she's live streaming.
Plus just overbearing your daughter's like, I was coming on a little too strong. Mm-hmm. I thought it was very, very elegantly done for a movie that was almost... the whole thing is a visual effect. The whole the editing in this like computer POV thing is like so complicated because it's moving things around on the screen like as if it's your point of view looking at certain things. It's done so well, and just as an editor, like I know how time consuming just one of those is. Yeah, and it's an hour and 40 minutes of this.
Trying to imagine how the script must have been. It had to have been a lot of technical, because usually when we write a script, it's a page a minute because there's enough dialogue and whatever to where it roughly works out. But this was mostly, the script had to be mostly this happens on screen and then this happens and the arrow moves over here. Yeah. So that must have been a little bit tricky.
I saw Unfriended, and for about 10-25 minutes, maybe half an hour, I thought it was cool. And then it got bad, Yeah. It became the horror movie that whatever. But this movie never let up.
I think the other movies were like Blair Witch on a computer screen, which is why it ended up, because it was a lot of improv and spaces that actors are trying to fill. But this was written well all the way through. It shows you how a great performance can carry a film, especially one that you're not expecting to enjoy.
All right, so that's it for this week's Movieisms. If you want to stay tuned for spoiler chat, it's going to be right. We have two. I have something I want to mention. He has something he wants to mention. We put our Friday show on pause for a bit while we take care of some other things. Hope that's working out for everybody. If you want to send us an email, it's movieisms@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from people. If you see any of these movies that we've been talking about for the last 4 months and agree or disagree with us, send us an email. Part of this is because Brad and I love talking about movies. It's not, I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to disagree with him on whether Ant-Man and the Wasp is bad or not, which I thought it was bad, and he didn't. It wasn't
great. It was okay.
But it's more about the conversation you get to have after.
Movies can be fun, okay? They don't have to be perfect.
Searching was a lot of fun. It just was also happened to be good. Like, It has to be good for me to think it's fun. So that's it. We'll see you again next week. Stay tuned for spoiler chat right after these messages.
The end.
Movieisms is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you'd like to find out more, follow us on Twitter or Instagram. And make sure you click like on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/movieisms. If you're enjoying this podcast, please take a moment and give us a 5-star review in iTunes. It only takes a minute, and it helps us out more than you can imagine. Thank you very much, and until next time, we'll see you at the movies. All right, so spoiler chat on Searching. Now,
not on Operation Finale, because that's a true story.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to mention ties into what you were going to mention, so I'm going to go first. There's the scene at the very, very beginning when the dad starts digging through his wife's account, the mom.
Her account is on Windows XP.
Her account is on. He opened up her computer and he started digging through her old stuff and looking for all the old friends from middle school.
Contacts. Did you notice how much information was on every contact?
Yeah,
I know lot. Some people are like that.
Yeah, you're definitely not like that. No. You can't even remember people's names.
You won't know who is for what.
But the mom actually wrote in details about certain characters, and there was the kid where it said, so-and-so has a crush on Margot,
yeah.
That's the kid. That's the kid that did what he did. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know that at first, but for some reason it's just they don't zoom in on it, they don't show it to you. You see it in a list of things, you just might happen to catch it. And if you do, when the movie ends, you get the satisfaction of I got that clue like an hour ago and I didn't even realize it. It's one of those, very subtly done. Which ties into your complaint when we find out that the detective's son is the one that did the thing.
My complaint was the movie was done well enough. It didn't need a twist.
Well, the whole thing was a twist.
M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Shamalama ding dong.
Oh, did you like that twist? How about another twist? Oh, and another twist. It just didn't need it, and it was so... It's obvious.
So, without that last twist, though, the daughter's dead at the end.
It didn't make sense. Okay, after they did the first twist, just throw it out there. He first thinks it's his brother, which did a good job of making me think
that was the brother.
That it was the brother.
He thought the brother was
involved somehow.
Raping or sexually involved.
I thought involved in drugs, and then she got in trouble or something.
Yeah. No, what I thought it was sex. I thought, because the last night was fun. If my dad finds us, he'll kill us. He'll kill me. Yeah.
Because you're a dad, your brain went there.
Yeah.
Okay. I get that.
I'm also a grown-up human being, so my brain always goes to sex.
It would have to be bad enough to need to cover up. So that makes sense. But the cop that's helping him the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just too...
you didn't think the cop was too much until the thing happened at the end.
Here's what I thought. This isn't realistic. Cops will ignore you and tell you that they'll take care of it, and they don't. And especially, they don't FaceTime you.
But think about it.
But she was what do you call it? She was a very... helpful, I want to say happy, but...
yeah. But think about it. Since she was the guilty party with her son, and she was covering it up, wouldn't it make more sense that she tells him to look into all this stuff to keep him busy and distracted?
It made sense that she was trying to control the information.
And keeping him distracted. Here, dig through all your computers. Right. Stay away from the investigation.
I was just saying, I suspected when she was helping, because this is not what happens in real life. So,
and there's a point where you start to think that maybe the detective and the dad are going to fall in love. And I'm thinking, I hope that's not what happens here, because it seems obvious that would happen, and they don't. So that's good. Here's
my problem: is the explanation. She said that her son called her, that he had accidentally pushed her over a cliff, and thinks he killed her, and she's immediately like, okay, wanting to cover up and go help him. My whole thing was, it's less of a, if he gets... Why wouldn't the first thing you do is the next day at least see if you can find her? Make sure she's dead before you start trying to cover up your son's murder, because it may not be murder yet. She might not be dead, yeah. She may have just fallen. She may not even remember getting pushed. Why wouldn't you go look? She had, from what I remember, 5 days had passed.
Yeah.
And then they said 5 days without food and water, she has to be dead.
Yeah.
But then somebody said something about, well, it rained, so it's only 2 days. And then they turned around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that was good tense, because you definitely didn't want to sit here watching a computer screen all that time for her to die, but I was okay with it. Because, American movies, it's just same thing all the time, so I want something different. But it just didn't make any logical sense, because the first thing you would do is, okay, if my son does get caught or something,
see if you can find
let
the
me
body.
Make it a lesser crime by her not being dead.
Right. So
why didn't she look?
Yeah.
And also, she describes the ravine as being jagged and whatever, and then when you finally see it at the end,
it's just like
it looks like a little hill you might roll down, and it didn't look and I feel like you could have stood in daylight and seen her from the top. And, it just didn't play out.
So what you're saying is you wish that the mom had, when she finds out that her son struggled with this girl, knocked her off the thing, like angrily or something. I can't remember how it actually happened.
Yeah.
You're saying you wish, before she just assumed the girl was dead, that she'd stuck her head out over the thing and figured it out. Okay.
Because she had 36 hours where the father didn't even report anything, thinking she was on some trip or something.
Right.
She could have... Any real cop in the real world would have gone to look to make sure. Because you're thinking, my son, this is a poor daughter. She's a cop. That's her thing to save people. That would be her first thing is let me make sure she's okay.
So there's a couple. I'm not even disagreeing with you.
Okay.
But you could say if we were writing this, how would we explain why she didn't do that? You could say she was stressed out because she's just trying to protect her kid. She was trying to not she did assume that the daughter was dead. She did. I mean, you'd have to assume that daughter was dead, and maybe the hill did not look as dangerous to us watching as it was in real life. Like maybe they didn't show it well enough. Like to solve your problem, your issue with the thing. The mountain needs to be more mountainous, correct?
Yeah, not easily gotten to or traversable.
Right.
Like, she would need to go take a look and say, oh, I ain't trying that.
She's also...
And no one else is going down there.
So she's also, in my mind, we don't know how many things like this she's covered up of her son doing before. Because she keeps saying he's different. He's different than... Right, so maybe his interpretation of a cliff or her being dead is a little off. So wouldn't you want to check? Right.
By the way, let me shit all over your theory before you finish. Because wouldn't you want to hide the body? If she was dead, go fucking bury the thing. And because they were going to do a search. You're going to have all those people everywhere? You're just going to scratch those areas out and assume no one's going to look? No. You bury the effing body.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't hide the body.
Okay, so there. I just shit all over your theory.
I think what they wanted was to eventually find the body. They wanted them to eventually find the body. So the question could be answered.
Maybe.
Yeah. So take it back. Take it back.
I'll take my shit back. I don't know what to do with it, but I'll take it back.
So when I was seeing this unfold, and I turned to my daughter and I said, the son did it. Right as it was happening, I was like, oh, the son did it. What I think is the mom thinks her son is a bad seed. Because there's another scene in the movie where she's explaining to the dad. No, where she's that too. She's explaining to the dad on how nothing your daughter does is your fault, Dad. Because here's this moment in time where my son went around the neighborhood and told the whole neighborhood that he'd started a charity and taken up donations for everybody, but the donations, the charity was fake. She's like, and so when somebody came to her and complained about it, the mom said, yeah, I started that charity. Thank you for your donation. So she's been covering up for her son the whole life, his whole life. So in my mind, it's sort of like, well, maybe he's done this before. Maybe there's other murders out there that he doesn't know about. The less that we don't know about yet. The less believable thing to me is the confession from the drug addict guy. The forced confession. That's now that I'm thinking about it, that part's the part that doesn't make sense to me, because they could have and should have just orchestrated the whole thing so that they find a dead body in the end, and then you find out that she's not dead. Like, that would have been a way to resolve the whole thing. She must be dead. Yeah. And then she's not.
That was, by the way, that was the initial thing that set me off into, okay, this is stupid. Yeah. Was when the guy found the picture of her next to that guy. I was like, what? You're in a picture with the guy. You knew that this is public. It was in the newspaper. It's a public thing. People you know that you know that guy.
People that you know that you know.
So that was like the worst thing, to get that guy to confess that he did it and then kill him or make him do suicide. It was just right there. That's when you lost me.
So I guess what we're deciding is the last twist is on shaky ground. That last twist, after about 3 or 4 really good ones, is on shaky ground.
Where she made her friend do that was just completely. I might could have gone along with all of it if they had taken that. It was just too much.
Yeah,
like she went from a good, nice person, helpful cop to a complete evil mastermind.
Yeah,
I didn't buy it.
I still kind of forgive it, because I do think that
it's still good. You should go see it anyway.
I definitely think it's you have got to see it. So, the deal is that she's a mom. She's not a perfect mastermind. She is a mom, and she messed up. And that's why this regular dad character was able to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's at least how I explained it in my
he started
head.
figuring it out because he checked on things that she said that she checked on. But when he checked on it himself, found out, oh, no, that isn't the case. So he started suspecting that she was feeding him false information.
So I think that a lot of times you come out of movies going, it wasn't logical. Well, people are not always logical.
I guess.
Not everybody's an evil mastermind. She messed up at the end, and that's how she got caught.
But there are practical... That's like a practical,
For
emotional...
you.
I'm a mom. It's my child. You know, let me see if the person is dead.
Yes.
And if they are, let me maybe hide the body. Those two things I can't get over. Anyway. I recognize that I can ruin movies for myself because
you ruin
logic.
movies for me. I, however, will not let you convince me that I'm wrong about this movie the way I'm always able to convince you.
Okay.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week when we're probably going to do Peppermint, which is... We'll see if that movie's any good or not.
There's like two movies I want to see. I want to see Ken as well, but it might not be a great movie.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a 3.
We'll see. Yeah, so the movies that are out right now, of course, those handful of you that are still listening to the spoiler section and everything, Ken is out, the movie about the boy that finds the little laser gun.
Space gun?
Yeah, and I think the movie about the robot dog is out.
Let's put that last on the list.
AXL or something like that?
Yeah.
That's not even on my list.
Yeah.
It's on a list of movies I don't want to see it. And then there's Peppermint, which is coming out this week. So that's the one that's the release that I want to see.
Hopefully, we're expecting Alias the movie. I am, anyway.
Yeah. I never watched Alias the TV show, so I wouldn't know.
And you don't know anything about J.J. Abrams, and you don't respect him the way you should.
I do respect J.J. Abrams
because that was where he cut his teeth.
He cut his teeth on Felicity, which is where I know J.J. Abrams from, which is the show he did before. Yeah. So you don't know anything about J.J. Abrams.
You win! No! You beat me with your mental movie kung fu. Damn it.
That's my mental movie kung fu grip.
The
The end.